Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into something pretty fundamental about leadership. It's this paradox, really.
Right.
Imagine this. Two leaders, okay? Same exact crisis hits. Same data flooding their desks, same market chaos swirling around them. But one just sees this massive threat, gets totally paralyzed by fear, maybe thinking about past failures.
This up.
Exactly. And the other sees the same mess, but finds possibility, acts decisively with this real clarity.
And the difference, crucially, isn't usually about raw intelligence or, having a fancier degree or even just years in the trenches. It's perspective.
Perspective.
Yeah, it's that lens, right? The one we use to filter everything we see. And honestly, it's the single biggest factor when the stakes are high. It shapes what you even notice, what gets ignored, and definitely how you react when things get intense.
And I think the stakes for getting perspective wrong are just incredibly high right now. I mean, businesses can vanish overnight. Teams are just crying out for real vision, not just, another procedures manual. So our mission today in this deep dive is to really unpack what makes up that vision, why it's the absolute bedrock of influence, and importantly, what practical steps we can all take to shift our own lens, away from fear, more towards faith.
It really is the hidden foundation of influence, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're starting from this core idea. Leadership doesn't begin with a title or the corner office. It starts with the specific lens you choose to look through when you face reality.
Okay, let's dive right in then. First up, something our sources call the title trap.
Yes.
This is that really easy mistake to make, thinking that leadership just automatically comes with the job title, CEO, director, manager, whatever. We figure the title itself gives you the right perspective.
And, well, the Bible gives us a pretty stark warning about why that's such a dangerous trap. Look no further than King Saul.
Okay.
Saul had it all on paper, right? He was anointed by Samuel, had the crown, the official position, the authority. But his fundamental problem, he led through a lens of fear and maybe past experience.
Can you give us a specific example? Make it concrete.
Sure. Think about 1 Samuel 13. The Philistines are massing this huge army, Saul's own troops. They're terrified, starting to scatter.
Understandable, I guess.
Yeah. But Saul's fear-based perspective interpreted that sight, his dwindling army, a real visible problem, as a crisis that was actually bigger than God's promise to him.
So he panicked.
He panicked. He did exactly that. He performed a sacrifice himself, something only the priest was supposed to do. He overstepped his bounds because his perspective was totally anchored in the fear of losing control, losing his men, not in faith in God's word. He had the title, zero real perspective.
Okay, so that's the leader defined by the title, seating by fear. Now contrast that with David, same book, 1 Samuel 17.
Right.
David has, zero credentials. He's a shepherd kid. His own brothers dismiss him. But here's the fascinating bit. He's on the same battlefield as Saul, looking at the exact same, 9-foot giant Goliath.
Exactly the same facts, same giant, but their interpretations couldn't be more different. Saul's fear lens just screamed impossibility. This guy's too strong, we're doomed.
Makes sense from a purely physical view.
Sure. But David's faith lens didn't deny the giant existed. It just reframed the whole situation. He basically overlaid a bigger reality, asking, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? My God is infinitely bigger than this problem.
Okay, wait. I need to push back a little here, though. Because in let's say, the modern world, titles do carry weight, right? If you're that shepherd boy in a boardroom, great perspective, maybe, but who's listening? You don't have the positional power. How did David make his perspective count when, nobody cared about his title?
But that's the crucial point. David's perspective wasn't just internal. It actually reordered reality for the people around him. When he spoke, his words had such conviction, such alignment with, the underlying truth of God's power, that they just cut through that national paralysis Saul's fear had created.
So it wasn't the title, it was the clarity.
It was the clarity born from perspective. That's the source of influence. Leadership isn't the authority you're given. It's the perspective you possess.
And that clarity, that kind of seeing, is that what the Bible calls Shaz?
Precisely. That's the Hebrew word shazan.
Yeah.
You see it famously in Proverbs 29.1, where there is no shazan, the people perish.
Yeah. And we need to be clear, Shazan isn't just like a 5-year strategic plan or a catchy mission statement.
It's deeper.
Much deeper. It carries this weight of divine insight, maybe even prophetic revelation. It's about seeing things not just as they are right now, but as God intends them to ultimately be.
And if you don't have that shazan, what happens then?
Well, the verse uses another Hebrew word, yipreh, Without that kind of transcendent vision, the people, Yipra, they cast off restraint, they run wild, they lose their ethical moorings, their cultural cohesion, they just drift.
So in a company today, that might look like,
Well, you see it all the time. Chronic mission drift, maybe ethical compromises start creeping in, high burnout, people just feeling disconnected. The organization might still be functioning, ticking boxes, but it's lost its soul because there's no shared, compelling perspective holding it together. It's really interesting how modern leadership thinking seems to circle back to this, even using different words. Our sources mention things like sense-making, systems thinking, reframing.
secular echoes, really.
Yeah, how so?
Well, take sense-making. It's basically the skill of finding meaning in chaos, right? Interpreting all those scattered data points through some kind of bigger truth. That's just Shanzon. Or systems thinking, stepping back from the immediate panic, like Saul couldn't, and seeing how everything connects, the longer-term consequences.
Instead of just reacting to the one scary thing right in front of you.
Exactly. These skills force leaders to look beyond the urgent, beyond the visible, which is precisely what Chazon does. It gives that higher viewpoint.
Okay, so if perspective is so vital, and let's face it, we're drowning in information, in knowledge, why do so many smart, experienced people still lead from a place of limitation? What are the main traps?
Our sources point to two big ones. The first pitfall is confusing knowledge with vision.
Knowledge isn't enough.
Knowledge is essential. Don't get me wrong. It's like having all the best ingredients laid out on your kitchen counter. But vision, that Chazon, that's the recipe. It's the ability to actually imagine the finished dish, to know how those raw ingredients need to come together for a greater purpose.
And the classic, maybe tragic example of this.
Has to be the Pharisees. I mean, arguably some of the most knowledgeable people in history regarding the scriptures. Memorized huge chunks, followed the letter of the law meticulously. They had the facts down cold. But all that knowledge actually ended up blinding them. It became a wall. They had tons of information, but lacked the actual vision, the insight to recognize God's kingdom, to see the Messiah standing right there. They mistook the words about God for God himself, right in front of them. Knowledge without living vision just led to rigidity, anxiety, and ultimately failure to see the new thing God was doing.
Which leads right into the second pitfall you mentioned.
Exactly. Pitfall 2. Mistaking sight for insight.
Okay, break that down. Sight versus insight.
Sight is about perceiving what's immediately there. The quarterly numbers, the angry customer email, the obvious problems, the raw data. Insight, though, asks deeper questions. It asks, okay, what's really going on beneath the surface here? What are the hidden dynamics? Is there a divine pattern emerging?
It's looking past the symptoms to the cause.
Or even past the cause to the purpose. The go-to story here is the 12 spies in Numbers 13. Remember, they go to scout out the promised land.
Right, 10 come back terrified.
Exactly. 10 of them had perfect sight. They saw the giants, the fortified cities, real obstacles.
Yeah.
And their report, purely based on what they saw, filtered through fear and their past experience as slaves. We can't do it. We look like grasshoppers to ourselves. The visible facts became their absolute limit.
They reported accurately, but drew the wrong conclusion.
Totally wrong. Paralyzing conclusion. But then you have Caleb and Joshua. They had insight. They saw the same giants, the same cities, but they viewed those facts through the lens of God's promises. Their insight, their Chazon, led them to say, we are well able to overcome it. Sight gave terrifying data. Insight gave them direction and courage.
And mistaking the first for the second, that leads to getting stuck.
Always.
Oh.
Whether it's facing giants back then or facing, I don't know, a disruptive competitor today, data without insight breeds paralysis.
Okay, this difference really comes into sharp focus under pressure, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's talk about how these different perspectives play out in the middle of a real crisis.
Yeah, the crucible of crisis really reveals the underlying perspective. Let's take a modern example. An organizational crisis. Maybe a huge technological shift hits, making your main product suddenly look obsolete. Leader A, let's call them the maintainer, they see this shift purely as a threat. Their perspective is totally locked into what worked before. We've always done it this way. Their focus becomes defensive. Cut costs, batten down the hatches, trying to weather the storm, hoping things go back to normal. They're managing the damage.
Right, trying to preserve the status quo. But Leader B,
the innovator, sees the same crisis, the same disruption, but views it as a catalyst, an opportunity for real transformation. Their lens is focused differently on future needs, underlying principles. They might even see the old product becoming obsolete as a kind of liberation.
freeing up resources for something new.
Exactly. Frees up people, frees up capital to pivot, to innovate, to build the next thing. They're not managing defense, they're leading transformation.
Yeah.
And the fate of that whole organization hangs on which perspective ultimately drives the decisions.
That's a powerful contrast. Now, bring it back to a biblical crisis. Moses at the Red Sea.
The ultimate pressure
Yeah.
cooker, right? Exodus 14. You've got the entire nation of Israel trapped. Pharaoh's army, chariots and all, bearing down from behind. The impassable Red Sea right in front.
No way out, physically speaking.
None. In the people's perspective, totally dictated by that immediate, terrifying physical reality. And, of course, by fear and the trauma of slavery they just escaped. They cry out to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die?" Their perspective saw only a death trap.
But Moses, he saw the same sea, the same approaching army.
Same facts. But his lens was different. It was anchored in God's promises, in his past experiences of God's deliverance. He didn't see an insurmountable wall. He saw a stage for God's power and glory to be shown.
So he stepped into that fear vacuum.
He did. He told the people basically, stop panicking. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. His faith-aligned perspective opened up a path where, logically, physically, none existed. He wasn't managing a crisis. He was leading through revelation.
Okay, this is all incredibly compelling, but it leads to the big so what question. If perspective is this foundational, how do we actively, intentionally cultivate a better one, a God-aligned one? How do we move past just reacting?
Great question. Our sources suggest it comes down to consciously adopting 3 specific lenses. Think of them as ways of intentionally focusing your perspective.
All right, what's the first lens?
The first is the lens of sovereignty, seeing God's control. This is the bedrock belief, the conviction really, that God is ultimately in control of the big picture, guiding things, even when circumstances look chaotic, random, or just plain bad.
Okay, that sounds good, but honestly, that can feel like the hardest one to hold on to sometimes. You know, when you're facing job losses or a health scare or market collapse, sovereignty can feel very abstract.
It is hard, no question. Which is why it has to be a conviction rooted in truth, not just in feelings. The classic biblical example here is Joseph.
Sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused, thrown in prison.
Exactly. His immediate sight told him he was a victim, tossed around by injustice and bad luck. But his perspective, developed over time, was anchored in God's sovereign plan. Remember what he says to his brothers years later. Genesis 50.2 go. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good.
To accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives.
Right. That lens, that belief in God's overarching purpose, even through suffering, brings a kind of stability. It stops leaders from wasting energy trying to control every little variable and allows them to focus on what they can influence, trusting God with the rest.
Okay, lens 1. Sovereignty, what's the second?
The second is the lens of redemption, seeing potential in the problem. This is the belief that God is in the business of restoring, of remaking things that are broken. That includes people, projects, even failures.
So how does a leader apply this? It means not giving up on people easily.
It means seeing people not just as assets or liabilities based on their last mistake or performance review, but as individuals with God-given potential that can be developed, maybe even restored after a failure. You look past the current flaw to see what God intends for them.
Let's make that practical. Say I'm leading a team and a key person really messes up, misses a huge deadline, costs us money. Applying the lens of redemption. What does that look like? Does it mean I just ignore the failure? That sounds kind of soft. Maybe lacking accountability.
That's a great clarification.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely not about ignoring failure or avoiding accountability. A soft leader might do that. A redemptive leader addresses the failure, learns from it, ensures accountability, but crucially, views the person and the situation as an opportunity for strategic investment, not just write-off.
Strategic investment.
Yes. Instead of just thinking, okay, this person failed, they're out. The question becomes, what happened here? What can we learn? What support or development does this person need to succeed next time? Can this failure actually become a catalyst for growth? Think about Jesus and Peter after the denial.
Peter denied him 3 times, publicly. A huge leadership failure.
Massive failure. But Jesus didn't just cut him loose. In John 21, he restores him. He asks him 3 times, do you love me? And then gives him a new mandate. Feed my sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus saw Peter's potential, Peter the Rock, the future leader, and he strategically reinvested in that potential right after the failure.
So it's targeted restoration, not just overlooking the error. Got it. Okay, third lens.
Third is the lens of eternity, seeing the why behind the what. This lens connects our daily grind, the often mundane tasks, to a significance that goes way beyond the next deadline or the quarterly results. It's about believing that our work, when done for the right reasons, is part of a much larger eternal story.
And the example for this one.
Nehemiah. He's doing very practical work rebuilding a literal wall around Jerusalem. Project management, logistics, dealing with enemies.
Sounds like a tough middle management job, honestly.
Right. But when his enemies try to distract him, try to lure him away for pointless meetings or intimidate him, he refuses. Why? Because he saw the project through the lens of eternity.
How did he put it?
He sends back the message recorded in Nehemiah 6.3. I am carrying on a great project and I cannot come down. He didn't see himself as just a construction manager. He saw his work as having divine, long-term significance. That perspective gave meaning to the daily grind and protected the mission from compromise driven by short-term fear or distraction.
Okay, so if a leader manages to cultivate these three lenses, sovereignty, redemption, eternity, what changes? What does that look like on the ground for their team?
Cultivating these lenses directly produces three essential leadership qualities. First, you get clarity.
Clarity.
Yeah, this deep, settled understanding of your ultimate why and where. It lets you cut through all the noise, the conflicting information that paralyzes so many. In a chaotic meeting, the leader with clarity can quickly say, okay, options A and C don't actually align with our core purpose. Let's focus on B. Their perspective acts as a filter.
And that clarity must lead to the second quality.
Exactly. Conviction. This is that unwavering resolve, that deep belief that your chosen path is the right one, rooted in something solid, even when it's difficult or unpopular. It creates stability. People are actually desperate to follow leaders with genuine conviction, especially when everything else feels shaky. It makes them feel safer.
Clarity leads to conviction, and conviction.
Conviction fuels the third quality, courage. And courage isn't about not feeling fear. We all feel fear. Courage is conviction in action.
Ah, okay.
When your perspective, grounded in these lenses, becomes stronger than your fear, stronger than the pull of past failures, you act. That's courage. A perspective shaped by sovereignty, redemption, and eternity can transform cautious managers into courageous leaders.
So for everyone listening, it boils down to this. Your own perspective right now is likely being shaped primarily by one of three forces we've talked about. Is it fear, like Saul? Is it being limited by past experience, like the 10 spies? Or is it being guided by faith, like David or Joseph?
That's the challenge. We'd encourage you maybe this week conduct your own personal perspective audit. When you face that next tough decision, maybe it's a difficult conversation, a budget issue, a strategic choice, pause and ask yourself, which lens is dominating right now? What's the loudest voice in my head? Fear, past experience, or faith?
Because ultimately, your team, your family, your organization, they don't just need another manager checking boxes. They need a leader who can see beyond the immediate crisis, beyond the quarterly numbers.
Stop managing the facts as if they're the whole story. Start leading with faith. Start anchoring your decisions in these deeper truths. And maybe start asking every day, God, show me what you see.